Has anyone ever touched a leper? No? Anyone ever met a leper? Yeah, for real? Oh, me too. I have met a leper, more than a few. And actually, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say that actually everyone here has two. Do you want to know how? No, I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, but first of all, I want to reminisce. I've been doing a lot of reminiscing recently, and that all started about a month ago when a friend of mine who's just moved into a new house, so he's unpacking his boxes, and he comes across this old end-of-year school book. So basically, it was like 20 years ago, I'd finished sixth form, St. Angela's and St. Bonaventure's, and it was kind of an annual, the Leavers book. And so it had all of our photos in it. Do you want to see? He took a photo of my photo. This is what I looked like 20 years ago. Well, except there's no homily up there. There are no homily slides. So we're going to have to go without the pictures. So in this yearbook, I kind of look as I do now. I've got a kind of a cow's licky thing here because I had more hair. My eyebrows are a bit thicker and they're a bit darker. But apart from that, I pretty much look. Oh, there I am. There I am. Okay. You see the cow's lick? I mean, I don't know what was going on with that haircut, but there we are. And but at the end of this book, there is also the students have a kind of a vote on people who are most likely to become X, Y, and Z. So the whole list, 2 pages: most likely to be a doctor, most likely to be a nurse, most likely to be a bus driver. Does anyone have any guess of what I was most likely to become? Who said lawyer? Good. President, very good. So we have to be American. Priest, anyone? Nah. I was actually most likely to become. Wait a minute, here we go. Prime Minister. I had an A-level in government and politics, so I was a bit mouthy about politics back then. And so that was my goal in life, apparently. And things turned out a bit differently. Thank God. Yeah? So, but these reminiscences got me thinking about my time in secondary school in particular. I went to St. Bonaventure School, an all-boys school, and I started to think there was quite a kind of a hierarchy at St. Bon's. Kind of an unspoken one, but one which was lived out, which is how all hierarchies work, really. And you could divide boys roughly, although not exclusively, into 2 categories. There were those who were athletic and those who were academic. And if you were in one of these 2 categories, you had some level of status. If you were athletic, then you were pretty close to the top of the tree in an all-boys school. Best at football, best at basketball, the fastest runner. So lads would look up to you. And normally you'd be the one who turned the heads of the girls' school next door. So, it was kind of, it was good to be. I wasn't athletic. I was kind of middle of the road. But if you were athletic and academic, then you were as God. The guy with the brains and the body, what's that about? So people were kind of jealous, but also, they elevated these kind of people to the top of the tree. If you were exclusively or mainly academic but not athletic, you could kind of get by. People looked at you and said, there's a smart kid, he can help us out. And normally they were always the most helpful as well, best in maths. I wasn't the best academically either. I kind of did the middle road. I would kill myself to make sure I didn't come last in any of the races, because then you got noticed. Because if you weren't particularly academic and you weren't athletic, then life was a bit of a struggle. So you were kind of bottom of the hierarchy. So I aimed for the middle, so I'd escape the persecution. Thank God, St. Bon's was such a good school that nearly all the lads who went there, went beyond the expectations of their class or whatever it was. So we were very blessed by great teachers at St. Bon's. But then it got me thinking about the other, even more unspoken hierarchy, which was a bit more brutal. And it's not out in the world, it was primary school. Primary school was tough. Now, it reminded me when I was 9 years old, and we had a boy who suffered from this kind of hierarchical structure. Not from a very well-off family, scruffy hair, scruffy clothing. So he really was pushed to the margins. Particularly the girls, I don't know why, they kind of picked on him. Oh, you're smelly. And they kind of put him on the edge of the games. And if the girls aren't associating with him, then the boys definitely aren't associating with him. So he was on the edge of all the games. So he kind of got a reputation as someone who was a bit irritating, a bit annoying, who no one would play with. But at 9 years old, I thought, I have a chance to do something noble. Kind of felt a bit bad. I saw him playing on his own, so I thought, I'll go up to him. So I went up to him and said, I'll play with you. And he was over the moon. He was over the moon. He said, I finally got a friend. It only lasted a couple of days. And so we were playing together, and at first we had fun. But then I started to find him a bit irritating as well, because he started doing something that he didn't do before. He would start picking on other kids. I know. But you know why he did that? Because I was now his backup boy. Yeah. I was like, well, if you mess with me, you've got James to contend with. Okay? So I did the only thing a man can do. I abandoned him. So, sorry. Yeah, so sorry, Lord. But I must say, I still know this guy now. He's doing very well for himself, so things have turned out. And so, because I started to notice too that not only was I hanging out with the boy at the fringes, but I was now on the fringes of the social structure. He had drawn me out, and what he was doing by picking on these other kids, that was making me even further. So, you're friends with that guy? We don't speak to you. So I said, fine, right, I'll see you later. Now, we might not think straight away, well, you know, what was his position in the school? He was the leper. I had touched the untouchable. And something of what happened between me and that lad happened with Jesus in today's gospel. Because Jesus, who always walks on the fringes, you notice how he comes from the outside in, tends to bring people with him to the inside. And a leper runs up to him. Now, why would a leper be so desperate for a healing? Well, first, obviously, for the physical healing, but also the rules that governed how people dealt with leprosy in the day. Now, hopefully, this comes up. As long as the disease lasts, he must be unclean, and therefore he, the leper, must live outside the camp. As soon as the first sign of disease showed, that person was socially excluded, cut off from all human contact. The only ones they could associate with lepers like themselves. So, if death is bad, there's probably one thing worse than death, and that's social death. When no one is around to love you, to touch you, to make you feel human by including you in their family. It's what keeps us alive. There are actually experiments to show that if you cut someone off from all human contact, it's the worst torture and can actually have physical as well as mental effects, and people can die just from loneliness. That's the real suffering of the leper. That's why he runs up to Jesus. He says, if you want to, you can make me clean. In other words, you can make me considered to be human again by the community that has cast me out. So Jesus, responding in his compassion, says, of course I want to be clean, and touches him. But then something happens. Jesus gives him very, very strict instructions of what he's to do next. He's to go back into the town, show himself to the priest, and make an offering for the blessing that he's received. Jesus was giving him very clear instructions of what he needed to do to complete his reintegration back into the community so that he would be recognized as healed, accepted, and as loved. So he was trying to completely heal the man. The physical healing was just the beginning. But what does the leper do? He goes around and starts blabbing. My boy Jesus, he just healed me. Check it out. So he goes blabbing all around to everyone, all and sundry. Now imagine how that's going to play. Imagine how it kind of plays in real life. Imagine, so someone ran in from the street right now, screaming, and they said, I've just been healed of a flesh-eating virus that kills you in hours, 5 minutes ago. And Father James, he was the one who touched me. Did I mention that this disease spreads on touch? He touched me, and now I'm healed. Who's going to shake his hands at the sign of peace? It's a risk, isn't it? A big one. Who's going to shake my hands at the sign of peace? I become associated with that behavior. And it shows because, now if I get this right, and it shows because in the scripture, Jesus says to him those words, but then it says, Jesus could no longer go openly into any town, but had to stay outside in places where nobody lived Through the leper's behaviour, now Jesus finds himself on the fringe. Through touching that leper's life, he has been made into a leper by the leper himself. So Jesus can't go openly into the town. And I wonder sometimes whether I do that, first of all, but whether we do that with the gift of faith that we've received. Does the way that we share the gift of our faith, the way that we share our relationship with Jesus, bring people closer to a relationship with him or further away? It's very easy to say, well, as long as I tell people I go to church, I'm a good Catholic, and you need to be one too, that will make people go to church. But often it doesn't. It takes more than that. It's a journey, a process of integration, a process of attraction. Here's a good indicator. If sharing your faith, or if talking about your faith makes you feel superior to the person you're sharing with it, then you're probably helping that person to be further away from God rather than closer. If your sharing of your faith costs you something, as it costed Jesus, if it means going on a journey with a person, a journey of discovery within yourself even, then that's a good indicator that things are going well in your relationship with Jesus. Lent, which begins on Wednesday with Ash Wednesday, is a good chance, a good opportunity to really explore this question, to do what Jesus does and step out from the center of our own world, into the fringes where Jesus is waiting with his healing touch, with his presence, to spend time in the desert, so to speak, in the wilderness with him, so that we can, in the light of faith, in the light of our relationship with him, assess where our journey, our path is going. He's waiting for us, because here's the good news. It says at the end of this reading, even so, people from all around would come to him. Jesus is waiting for us in that place that we would rather not go. Who would choose the leper's position? The good news is that Jesus is waiting for us in that place so that he can touch our lives, so we can allow ourselves to be touched by him, so that we can return to the center and be a person whole, renewed, accepted, loved, but also fruitful in making new disciples for his kingdom. Amen.